Imagine a 14-year-old girl, pregnant, alone in a filthy New York bathroom, heart pounding, hands shaking around a glass of an improbable mix, cheap whiskey, bleach, baking soda, skin cream, whatever the neighborhood girls whispered as a remedy. She drinks, coughs, vomits, cries, hopes it will erase everything, make the problem vanish like magic. Nothing. Just nausea, shame, fear. 50 years later, that same girl, now a woman, holds a golden Oscar before millions, hosts America's top morning show, is worth over $100 million, her name known worldwide. Whoopi Goldberg. We see her laughing uproariously, sparring with guests on The View, shining under Hollywood lights, embodying iconic roles in Sister Act or Ghost. But behind the round glasses perched on her nose, the XXL smile lighting up sets, the raspy voice and dark humor that disarm everyone, lies a life that could have broken anyone else. A life of hard drugs, clandestine abortions, welfare, paralyzing fear of flying, sepsis with 30% survival odds, heartbreaking family losses, love scandals, late diagnoses, fights for women's rights, medical cannabis business. Yet she's still here. Standing. Stronger than ever. Funnier. Truer. Today, I tell the true, brutal, sometimes disturbing, often heartbreaking, but deeply inspiring story of Whoopi Goldberg. Buckle up, or take the bus, because Whoopi waited 13 long years to board a plane again after a trauma that scarred her for life. Let's dive into the journey through time, behind the scenes of a living legend. Before diving in, subscribe and hit the bell below. This story deserves sharing, and you won't want to miss the rest or future videos on icons who turned pain into triumph. Karen Elaine Johnson. That's her birth name. But you know her as Whoopi Goldberg, a pseudonym that sounds like a joke, and partly is. Born November 13, 1955, in a Chelsea housing project in Manhattan, New York, she grew up modestly with an overworked nurse mother, Emma Harris, raising 2 kids alone, and a pastor father, Robert Johnson, who vanished when Whoopi was 2. Little Karen spent days watching TV, mimicking actors, dreaming beyond her cramped apartment's 4 walls. At 8, she was already on stage in neighborhood plays at the Hudson Guild Community Center. She acted, laughed, forgot poverty, bills, absence for a moment. At 14, she got pregnant for the first time. At 17, she dropped out without a diploma, convinced she was too dumb to succeed. At 18, she was hooked on heroin, living on the streets, trying everything. At 19, she became a mom to daughter Alexandria. At 34, she won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her heartbreaking role in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple. At 69 today, in 2025, she still co-hosts ABC's flagship The View, earning $5 to $6 million per season per Variety's 2016 estimate, and likely more now. How do you go from New York's grimy sidewalks to Hollywood's golden sets? How do you turn shame, pain, addiction, failure into strength, success, a legacy inspiring millions? We'll discover it chapter by chapter, with solid sources: Washington Post, Guardian, Ebony, People interviews, excerpts from her book The Choices We Made, memoirs bits and pieces, op-eds, The View episodes. No rumors, just verified facts, direct quotes, precise dates. We start with the most embarrassing, funniest, most iconic, her name. Whoopi Goldberg. The name sounds like a stand-up bit. And it kind of is. In a 1984 Washington Post interview, as she broke onto New York's theater scene, Whoopi dropped a bomb. Only close family and intimate friends know my real name. Why the secret? Karen Johnson wanted a sharp double life. On stage, under lights, she's Whoopi, the eccentric star, wild comedian, voice-shaking rooms. At home, privately she's Karen, the mom, daughter, ordinary woman grocery shopping, raising her kid, paying bills. She explains bluntly, I can go home and live as that other person. Even if I look like Whoopi Goldberg on the street, I can pull out my driver's license and say, hey, that's not me. It's a survival strategy in showbiz's ruthless world, where fame can devour you. But where does Whoopi come from? No mystic tale, no noble heritage, no poetic inspiration. She farted. A lot. Too much. Her 1970s Berkeley theater colleagues nicknamed her Whoopee Cushion, the Whoopee Cushion, that prank toy making ridiculous noises when sat on. She recounts self-deprecatingly, first it was Whoopee Cushion, then in French, like Whoopee Couillon, because it sounded classier, more theatrical. Her mother, Emma, a straight-laced, pious nurse, was horrified. She warned, "No one will respect you with a name like that. Want to be taken seriously? Change it." Whoopi half listened. She kept Whoopi but added Goldberg. Why Goldberg? Vaguely. It's in the family somewhere, like a distant cousin, like R.I.P., you know. Nothing Jewish, nothing official, just a name that sounds good, punches, evokes Hollywood, big producers, cinema legends. In 1991 at the Oscars, accepting her color purple statuette, she thanks her imaginary Jewish ancestors with a wink. The room erupts in laughter. She laughs too. But behind the joke lies deep truth. Whoopi turned a playground insult, a fart-based nickname, into a global brand, synonym for comic genius, resilience, planetary success. Think about it. How many of us would quit facing such humiliation? Change name, life, dream? Whoopi embraced it. Made it hers. Pure Whoopi, turning shame into gold. 1969, New York. Whoopi is 14, deep in adolescence, skipping classes, neighborhood friends, first flings. Then one day, the pregnancy test. Positive. Total panic. No parents to talk to, mom works hard, dad long gone. No money. No plan. Just fear choking her. In 1992's The Choices We Made, a collection of abortion testimonies, Whoopi shares a deeply personal, brutal, blood-chilling story. I drank these strange concoctions the girls told me about. Something like Johnny Walker Red with a bit of Clorox, alcohol, baking soda that probably saved my stomach, and some cream. She tries everything. Dangerous grandma remedies, improvised potions, hallway whispers. Nothing works. She vomits, suffers, cries, but the pregnancy continues. The next year, at 15, she's pregnant again. This time, luck turns. Thanks to New York's 1970 abortion legalization, she goes to Planned Parenthood. The procedure is safe, medical, legal. She's saved. Decades later, reflecting with disarming honesty, I'm not proud of my choices at 14. It was dangerous, stupid, desperate. But that's why I remain a fierce advocate for legal, safe, accessible abortion today. Context. In 1970, Roe v. Wade *, 1973, 1 in 4 U.S. women aborted clandestinely. Thousands died yearly from infections, hemorrhages, uterine perforations. Whoopi could have been a statistic. She got lucky the second time. The first, she brushed death. This experience haunted her lifelong. But she turned it into political strength, a voice for millions without her luck. She spoke openly, unfiltered, breaking taboos. Pure Whoopi, taking pain and making it a fight. At school, Whoopi was lost from the start, struggling to read, write, follow lessons. Letters danced on the page, words jumbled. Teachers looked with pity or annoyance. Labeled slow, lazy, not very smart. She internalized it all. Believed she was dumb. Frustrated, humiliated, she quit before 17. In an Ebony interview, "You don't want to be labeled unintelligent for life. I felt I was for a significant part of mine, per all records, and I just couldn't face it." She emptied her locker, said goodbye to rare friends, plunged into the streets. Only years later, at 34, post-Oscar global stardom, was the root cause identified: dyslexia. A learning disorder affecting millions, but rarely diagnosed in 1960s, 70s Black kids from modest backgrounds. She said, "If someone had recognized my disorder earlier, tested me, advocated for me, maybe my path would have been different. Maybe I'd have finished high school, had more confidence. Who knows?" Indeed, how many kids like Whoopi were left behind because the system didn't see, didn't understand? How many abandoned dreams because told they were worthless? Whoopi didn't quit. She took another path. Harder. More dangerous. After dropping out, Whoopi lived on the streets. 1970s New York was a jungle. Drugs everywhere, violence, despair. She experimented. First LSD, then cocaine, then heroin. Quickly addicted. People called her a hardcore junkie, a label she couldn't dispute then. She explained, "The more you take drugs, the less good you feel. It pulls you into a destructive cycle where you need it more often. It's not your friend." Overcoming addiction became priority, but took time. Lots. She admits, "You fall often because it's hard. It took me many tries to kick the habit." She hit rock bottom repeatedly. Squats, near overdoses, occasional prostitution for doses. But one drug she won't quit, even today, marijuana. In March 2019, she publicly advocated legalization in New Jersey via NorthJersey.com op-ed, citing relief for painful periods since adolescence. She went further, co-founding Whoopi and Maya, a medical cannabis brand for menstrual pain, teas, bombs, tinctures. A thriving business helping thousands of women. From street addict to cannabis entrepreneur. Another incredible transformation. Whoopi does nothing halfway. After years of chaos, Whoopi got her act together. She entered a New York rehab center. There, she met Alvin Martin, a charismatic drug counselor. They fell in love. Married in 1973. At 19, Whoopi gave birth to daughter Alexandria Martin, her only child. A girl who became her universe's center. The marriage didn't last. Divorced in 1979. Whoopi alone, no stable job, no prospects. Time to leave. For California. Hollywood. The dream. She packed all she owned, clothes, daughter's toys, a bit of hope, and hit the road with Alexandria. Sadly, the teen pregnancy cycle persisted. At 15, Alexandria got pregnant, gave birth. Family pattern. Whoopi became a grandmother at 34. She stepped up as always. Starting over in a new state was colossal. Settling first in San Diego, then Berkeley, opportunities were scarce. She took any odd job, masonry on sites, styling and makeup for the dead at a funeral home. Yes, preparing corpses for funerals, an experience she called strange but paying. But with a young child it wasn't enough. Reluctantly, she turned to welfare. For 5 years, she relied on food stamps, government checks. She vividly recalls surprise, intrusive social worker visits with strict, absurd, humiliating rules. Example, strictly forbidden to share aid-provided food with a friend. If caught with a friend at the table, plate in front, it was deducted next month. Whoopi says, "It was like living under surveillance. You weren't free in your own home." After 5 years, she achieved financial independence via first theater roles. Proudly, she returned her last welfare check. "Here, I don't need this anymore." A milestone, personal triumph in her path to self-sufficiency and success. A traumatic experience changed Whoopi's life forever. In 2001, she witnessed a mid-air plane collision over San Francisco. Obsessive images lingered long. The impact was so profound she refused to fly for 13 years. Instead, she traveled in a custom tour bus, a rolling palace with kitchen, bedroom, living room. The Guardian reports how this avoidance became integral to her life. The bus was her mobile sanctuary, letting her pursue professional commitments while managing anxiety. But it couldn't last forever. Flying became inevitable, especially for international shoots. The turning point, a lucrative opportunity. Whoopi candidly shares, "They waved a check in front of me," laughing at the financial motivation that finally pushed her to face her fear. Days before her first flight were anxiety-filled. She got very nervous, started sweating days prior. Her first private jet flight wasn't comfortable. She described it as tough but manageable. It wasn't totally impossible. Despite discomfort, this step marked a major victory in overcoming her fear. Kudos to her for finally facing that demon. Whoopi Goldberg is instantly recognizable with her signature round glasses, usually perched on her nose. They're not just an eccentric fashion accessory. They're a vital necessity due to severely degraded vision. On The View, she revealed her sight worsened so much she's no longer allowed to drive. "I have a driver," she announces with her usual humor. She acknowledges her poor vision's limits. "It wasn't good enough, and it made people nervous when I drove." Thus, giving up driving privileges was wise. Corrective surgery isn't viable. She found a practical solution, living in New Jersey, convenient for her driver to shuttle her to New York for the View tapings. This lets her work without added stress of navigating vision issues. Whoopi Goldberg endured a series of failed marriages. Her first with Alvin Martin ended in 1979 after 6 years. In 1986, she married cinematographer David Clayson, but it lasted only until 1988. Her third was with Lyle Trachtenberg in 1994, divorcing a year later in 1995. To date, Whoopi hasn't settled into a lasting partnership, unlikely to remarry. In a 2009 Guardian interview, she admits, "I wasn't fully committed to anyone, and I recognized I wasn't great at relationships." She explains dedicating years to supporting daughter Alexandria and raising her granddaughter, giving them all her time, energy, money. Now, she feels it's time to focus on herself. Frankly self-described as selfish about integrating someone else. "I like getting up when I want, going where I want. It's hard." Back then, she was content living solo with Cat Oliver, which might seem lonely to some. But in 2011, she welcomed another furry friend, Vin, a rescue cat. Animals are her true companions. On the 1993 Made in America set, Whoopi fell deeply for co-star Ted Danson. Major complication: Danson was married to Casey Coates. Per People, Coates suffered a 1979 stroke birthing daughter Kate. Miraculously, the baby was healthy, but Casey's left side remained fully paralyzed. Despite Coates permitting Danson to leave, he stayed until meeting Whoopi. Consequences were huge. Danson paid Casey $30 million in divorce settlement. His family man image tarnished, Whoopi faced intense public backlash. Controversy escalated in 1993 when Danson roasted Whoopi in blackface, reportedly using the N-word repeatedly. Heavily criticized, including by Roger Ebert. But Whoopi found it entertaining and defended it. After a passionate year, Whoopi and Danson ended it. Yet the stigma of being Danson's mistress lingered. In an Orlando Sentinel interview, she recalled harsh labels. "I'm anti-Semitic, a bigot, a disgrace to my race, to women, a homewrecker, I slept with everyone in Hollywood." In fall 2018, Whoopi thought she had a cold. Months later, hospitalized with terrifying diagnosis, sepsis and double pneumonia. To People, she recalled doctors saying 30% survival chance. The doctor said, "Listen, you're not going anywhere tomorrow or next week, you're really sick." During hospitalization, Whoopi underwent 2 thoracentesis, needle inserted between lungs and chest wall to drain fluid. A catheter was placed for continuous drainage. After 6 weeks off The View, Whoopi returned in March 2019, admitting recovery ongoing. "It really knocked me down, but I'm getting better," she told People, grateful to be alive. Whoopi's resilience and strength shone through, relieving her audience. In 2023, The View co-hosts discussed Below the Belt, exploring physical torments and misdiagnoses for endometriosis. Per Who, it's painful tissue growth like uterine lining outside the uterus. Whoopi shared suffering endometriosis, but grateful doctors identified it before disabling. Yet her heart broke for those misdiagnosed, suffering longer, or ignored. Women pay taxes. "I don't understand why, after years of medical school, doctors aren't trained on women's bodies," she said passionately. Then all these people make comments, and you know they have no idea how it works. In May 2024, Whoopi published memoirs Bits and Pieces, My Mother, My Brother, and Me, offering fans intimate life insights, from tough upbringing to frank, humorous, scandalous moments, like using hit and run unexpectedly. But it focuses on relationships with late mother Emma Harris and brother Clyde K. Johnson. Their losses inspired the memoirs. "The 2 most magnificent people I've ever known were my mother Emma and brother Clyde. They have almost everything to do with who I became," she wrote. When Whoopi's mother died of a stroke August 29, 2010, she shared the heartbreaking news on The View. Reflecting on her mother's adventurous spirit, "I'm not sad because she had a good time. My mother was a great adventurer. She loved adventures, and my brother and I ensured her life was full and rich. She worried who would love her as deeply as her mother but found comfort in her bond with Clyde. After their mother's death, Whoopi leaned heavily on him. Tragically, he died 5 years later in 2015, leaving another immense void. Whoopi Goldberg started as a stand-up comedian in 1980s San Francisco underground clubs. Her one-woman show The Spook Show propelled her nationally. Mike Nichols spotted her, produced the Broadway version, boom, rising star. Then The Color Purple in 1985. Her role as Celie, an abused woman finding strength, earned the Oscar. She played hilarious medium Oda Mae Brown in 1990's Ghost, stealing scenes from Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. Emmy for hosting, Grammy for comedy albums, Tony for theatrical production. She achieved the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, a rare club. She's hosted The View since 2007, joyfully clashing on politics, culture, life. Launched an oversized clothing line in the 1990s, skeptical but lucrative. Created Whoopi and Maya for medical cannabis. Voiced animations like The Lion King. From stand-up to film comedy, animation to fashion design, this multi-talented force has ignited the industry for decades. Whoopi isn't perfect. She made controversial Holocaust comments in 2022, apologized, was suspended 2 weeks from The View. Defends Roman Polanski, sometimes critiques #MeToo. She's human, but authentic. Speaks truth. Laughs at herself. Helps others. Donates millions to causes. Women's rights, LGBTQ+, education. She survived everything. Poverty, drugs, abandonment, illness, scandal, grief. And turns every scar into a joke, lesson, business, inspiration. Whoopi Goldberg isn't just a star. She's a survivor. A living legend. Living proof the past, however tragic, doesn't define the future. If this story touched you, give a thumbs up, comment your favorite moment, the whoopee cushion name, abortions, plane phobia. Subscribe for more true stories on icons who overcame everything. Remember, sometimes the whoopee cushion becomes Hollywood's queen. The girl drinking bleach becomes a voice for millions. Whoopi Goldberg. One life. One legend. See you next time.